What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with your preview for the Wyndham Championship, the final event before we head into the PGA FedEx Cup playoffs next week at the Northern Trust. So we're going to have a lot of guys jockeying for position to try to make that final 125. Before we jump into that, I do have some giveaways. So we've been giving away a week subscription to DFS On Demand. That's my site. It's the site where all the tools that you're going to see in these previews and anything else from the channel, it's where they come from. So the winners for last week are Sean Ulrichsen and Brendan Andrew. If I have your contact information, I will reach out to you. If not, shoot me a note through the website. If you would like to win a week's access, it includes all the tools, no restrictions, access to the Slack channel as well. There's two ways to do that. You can like, subscribe, and comment below. And last week I screwed this up and said, give me someone over 10K who is going to miss the cut. And of course, there was no cut last week. After I spent 25 minutes talking about that, I was a super idiot and made that the question for last week. So let's just run it back. Give me the guy over $10,000 that is most likely to miss the cut this week. Put it in the comments. That's one way. The other way, if you're listening specifically on iTunes or through some audio channel, just give it a 5-star review, say something nice, and that'll get you entered as well. All right, let's get on to the Wyndham. So let's start with Sedgefield Country Club, which is in Greensboro, North Carolina, and the host to the Wyndham Championship for, 11 years, I think it is. 2008, I believe, is when they made the switch to Sedgefield. What you need to know about this are a few things. We'll talk about this more in the course stats, but it's a pretty easy course. In fact, when you just look at par 70s, it's the second easiest par 70 on the PGA Tour schedule outside of the BMW Championship, which we're going to see in a few weeks. It ranks 40 out of 50 in terms of difficulty, so you're going to need a lot of birdies here. 17, 18, 19, maybe even 20 or 21 under par to win this thing. It's going to be a bit of a birdie fest, and you're going to need to be accurate off the tee. We'll talk more about that when we get to the key stats, but just so you're aware, that range between 275 yards and 300 yards, Sedgefield has some of the most narrow fairways on the tour. There's probably only 5 or 6 courses that get more narrow, going down to the RBC Heritage, and then Kapalua has the biggest ones, are like 65 yards wide. It's like twice the width of any other course. So that's what we're looking at here. Let's jump over. Actually, I'm trying to think what else. This is where Snedeker won last year. He went wire to wire. He shot the 59 on Thursday. Ended up winning by 3 over CT Pan, but on the 18th tee, they were both playing 18 at the same time in 2 different groups. These guys were tied. CT Pan blocks his drive right, goes OB, ends up making double. Snedeker makes birdie, so it's a 3-shot victory, but it was much, much closer than that the entire time. So wire-to-wire win for Sneds, which we'll talk more about in a second. But let's jump over to the cheat sheet and see what's happening here. All right, 5 guys over 10,000. Let's look at each one of them. I've got a couple of thoughts on each one. So Webb Simpson, 11,200. He is the most expensive golfer in the slate. He is the betting favorite to win this. I saw him at 10-1. He was already down to 9-1 when I checked it a little bit later. And it's for obvious reason. He is a Raleigh native. He went to Wake Forest. He loves this course. He won here in 2011. And since then, so let's go backwards. So last year, 2nd place, then a 3rd place, 72nd, 6th, 5th, 11th, 22, and then a win. I mean, he's just peppered top 5s, top 10s. He's raised the trophy come Sunday evening. He just has everything going for him. Quite frankly, how much does he love this championship? He actually named his daughter Wyndham. So obviously, very, very good vibes here. He's coming in off of the 2nd place finish at the WGC, 30th at the Open Championship, 16th at the US Open. Those were his last 3 worldwide starts. So really hard to argue with Webb Simpson being the most expensive golfer. I've not started to build yet, but I assume that I will take a stand on Webb one way or another. I will either be significantly overweight or significantly underweight. I know that doesn't help you at the moment, but this is a really good opportunity for you to make your own decisions. We'll see where the rest of this goes as I start to build later in the week and have to make a call on Webb. I've already kind of made a call on the next two, and there'll be pretty significant fades here. So Hideki, who we love, quite frankly, to me, it looks like he's running out of gas a little bit. He had the missed cut at the Open Championship. He had the 43rd out of a 63 player field at the WGC. It just looks like he's running out of gas. He actually, despite a couple of good finishes here, he's not a very accurate driver of the golf ball. Actually, I should probably save that for the key stats. Just remember that Hideki gains off the tee, but he's not very accurate. He's actually also had 5. His irons are what keep Hideki in so many rounds, because his putting's not going to do it. It's that ball striking. And he has had 5 subpar rounds in a row, and I'm kind of defining that as off his baseline. So he's still gaining strokes, but not nearly as many strokes as we need Hideki to gain via approaches to make up for that woeful putting. So it has been a little bit of a tough run for Hideki lately. Jordan Spieth, I'll talk about him in another section. Okay, we'll skip him. Colin Morikawa, $10,400. Now has 6 starts on the PGA Tour, has made all 6 cuts as a professional. He's got a win, a 4th at the John Deere, and a 2nd at the 3M in just his last 3 starts. The kid's the absolute real deal. Obviously, no course history here, but 10,400 might be pretty interesting as a pivot, because I imagine everyone is going to go down to Brandt Snedeker, which I think I have to highly endorse this decision. So Sneds is probably the guy who I'm targeting a lot of right now. So let's talk this through. When you talk about course fit, Brandt doesn't necessarily fit the type of player that I would expect to find success here, but his results say absolutely otherwise. Wire-to-wire finisher, or wire-to-wire winner last year with a 59, 3rd place finish in 2016, 5th place finish in 2014. He's been just awesome here. And here's what I really love about Brandt as I switch this over to, this is the live leaderboard for the WGC FedEx. So this updates throughout the week. This is actually free. This is not part of the membership. So you can go to DFS On Demand and get this every week. If you just remove the first 2 rounds and only look at the last 2, so the weekend, Brandt Snedeker gained 5.8 strokes tee to green over the weekend. It was the 2nd most in the field, right behind Keith Mitchell. The awesome part about this is that Snedeker lost 2.5 strokes putting. And I say that's awesome because Snedeker is notoriously a great putter, right? He gains like, a half a stroke a round. So that is like a 3.5 stroke difference between what we would expect Snedeker to do and what he actually did. So he's playing well tee to green. I can't imagine he's going to keep that putter down for long, especially when he gets back to a place where he seems to know really well, considering he shot a 59 there and he's got a bunch of top 5s. To me, he's where I'm going. I already bet him to win, and I'm going to probably play quite a bit of him in DFS. He's a flat $10,000. All right, I can't wait anymore. I'm going to switch over to the course key stats here, because this is going to talk about a lot of the guys that I want to talk about, and we need to chat through this. So if you're new, this is a regression model that I run every single, I run it for every single course, I guess I should say, where it looks back at the last, I think we're up to 12 years now, 10 to 12 years of PGA Tour statistics and DraftKings stats. So what it looks for is what types of players correlate to DraftKings success on each course. So that's what you're seeing here. The highest correlated stats are almost always similar, right? It's bogey avoidance or birdie or better, scoring average, strokes gained total, par 4 scoring always shows up on the par 70. So that's all normal. The highest ranked stats, this is where the good stuff happens. So the highest ranked stat is good drive percentage. It is only one course on the PGA Tour Rota is good drive percentage more valuable. Then the next one is driving accuracy. Only 2 other courses on tour is driving accuracy more important. I think it's RBC Heritage and I forget the other one. But when you see two stats that are both very much talking about driving accuracy or placing the ball correctly in the fairway, which is what those two stats are, and they are as ranked as highly as they are, that's fairly rare. That doesn't happen often. So we're going to put a huge emphasis on driving accuracy, and I actually tweeted this out. By the way, it's at RickRunGood. Yeah, I changed the Twitter handle, long overdue. Used to be at DFS On Demand. It's now at RickRunGood. If you're following me before, you're still following me. You probably haven't even noticed the difference, but I tweeted this out, and a lot of the value came from the last couple of leaderboards in terms of driving accuracy. So you had the normal names up there, Snedeker, Webb Simpson, whatever. And then the guys that were like, whoa, what's that name doing up there? The thing they all had in common is that they were accurate off the tee. It was Ryan Armour. It was Brian Gay. It was like, I think David Hearn was up there. Like accurate guys off the tee. So that's where we're going with this. And then the other one that is interesting is bogey avoidance. So it's funny because bogey avoidance only ever shows up on really difficult courses or really easy courses. And I was like, that's weird, but then it actually makes a lot of sense. So on really difficult courses, if you can avoid making a bogey, obviously you are going to, I don't want to say tread water, but like pars are good scores at difficult courses like the US Open, right? Bogey avoidance is huge at the US Open because if you make par, awesome. Like you're like making up ground on the field. On easy courses, you're already losing ground when you make pars. You're definitely losing ground when you make bogeys. So like, it's funny that stat always seems to pop up on the very easiest and the most difficult courses. So let's go through this. Sorting this by driving accuracy, this gets into a lot of guys that really, really interest me here. Ches Reavie has basically some of the worst course history, tournament history. He's missed like 3 out of his last 4 cuts here at the Wyndham Championship, but his course fit could not be any better, right? So he should be the type of guy who plays well here. He leads the field in driving accuracy. He's, I think, second best in the field in par 4 scoring. He does not make a lot of birdies. He makes enough bogeys. Like, this should be the absolute type of golfer who fits here. $9,300 Ches Reavie. He's coming off a 27th place finish last week at the WGC, despite missing 2 cuts since his win. So I'm going to jump back on Reavie here. Here's some more value. Ryan Armour. There's a guy I mentioned who always seems to pop up on this leaderboard. He now has back-to-back top 8 finishes here at the Wyndham Championship, and it's for this obvious reason, right? It's that he's number 2 in driving accuracy. He's a great putter. He's great at par 4s, and he can't hit the ball very long off the tee. I'm pretty sure I could poke one out there with him, but that's not going to be as important this week as it is other weeks. So Ryan Armour is 6,900. Andrew Landry, who we have talked about ad nauseum over the course of, the last month or so, and we basically were on him every single week except for the week that he finished second or whatever a couple of weeks ago. Still $6,800. Another really good course for him, one that you have to be accurate off the tee, playing much better recently than when I've rostered him in the past. Under $7,000, that's pretty good value if you ask me. So then the rest of the guys that round out the next couple spots here, Bryce Garnett, Brian Gay, Brian Stewart, Russ Henley, Austin Cook are like the top 8 guys in driving accuracy. Let's look at the other important stat, bogey avoidance. So this is how often you make a bogey, and it's Lucas Glover at 8,700 who leads the way here. And Glover, to me, is one of these guys that I'm probably going to have a lot of exposure to. $8,700 is a fairly reasonable price. He is leading the field in bogey avoidance. He leads the field in par 4 scoring. He makes enough birdies, 22%. That's a good number. Hits, gains off the tee, gains on approaches, gains around the greens, gains putting, gains absolutely everywhere. Now, we haven't seen him since, let me see if I can go find him on the cheat sheet here. We haven't seen him since the Open Championship. 20th place finish there. 10th at the John Deere. 7th at the 3M. He's got 28th, a 22nd, and an 18th place finish in those last 3 starts here. So Lucas Glover, absolutely the type of guy who fits the mold for me, playing well enough coming in. As I did my research, I just continued to hit on Glover, hit on Glover, hit on Glover. Probably going to have to play him at quite a big rate. Other guys that avoid bogeys, Webb Simpson is number 2 on this list. Then you get to Bud Cauley, Scott Piercy, and Kevin Tway, although I bet you this number jumped a bit after all the bogeys he made at the WGC last week. Not a lot of fun for Kevin. Okay, and then I do, of course, always want to do, let's do strokes gained approach here. So you get Hideki is number 1, Jason Kokrak number 2. That's a name we haven't talked about in quite a while. Corey Connors, 7,100, Taylor Gooch, and Paul Casey. I do think, actually, let me go back to I wanted to do a little more research on Paul Casey here. What's his price? 98. I think Paul Casey's a really interesting leverage spot. He hasn't been playing super great coming in. 27th last week at the WGC, 57th, so at least he made the cut at the Open Championship. But he had a 5th back at the Travelers and a 21st at the US Open. So it's not like he's playing poorly. And Paul Casey is like the epitome of total driving, right? He hits it long, he hits it straight, and he has had success here. It just hasn't been in a while. He hasn't played since 2015, and it was a 3rd place finish. So I think that Casey is this sandwich pricing between Patrick Reed, who I think will be popular, Brent Snedeker, that I think will be popular. He might be the forgotten man in the middle of the pack here. Casey might be a really interesting leverage GPP type play if you're playing a lot of lineups. All right, let's wrap this up with the strokes gained tool here. So I'm actually going to scroll down because I have Hideki already fired up here. You can see this is approaches for Hideki. So he 5 rounds ago, he gained a half a stroke per round. Then basically 0.6, 0.5 again, and then the last 2 rounds at the FedEx lost strokes and lost a ton of them on approaches. So that's 5 really subpar rounds in a row for Hideki, which is a bit of a concern for me. So that's kind of what I was mentioning earlier. If you look at the hottest guys on tour, obviously some of these guys have a smaller sample, but Colin Morikawa, Charlie Danielson, only 24 and 12 rounds, but they lead the way in the last 30 days of strokes gained tee to green. Russ Henley is interesting here. So there was a little momentum on him the last couple of weeks. He's now playing well above his 2019 baseline. He's playing at an elite level over the last 30 days, averaging nearly 2 strokes per round gained tee to green. And if we go look at him, he's 78. Yeah, his last finish was that 2nd place finish at the John Deere, and he missed all those cuts coming in. So it's really that one start that is driving a lot of that recent strokes gained numbers. But he did show up on some of the key stats, like I think he's very good. I think he's a very accurate driver of the golf ball. So for him to be $7,800 and at least played well the last time we saw him, that could be fairly interesting. And then I do want to switch this to the guys who are having the biggest issue putting at the moment, because if they can get right, we are usually able to find some pretty good leverage here. And a lot of these names have been the same names for a couple of weeks. So Charlie Hoffman, he's 1.6 strokes below his baseline per round. That's like 6.5 rounds, or I'm sorry, 6.5 strokes every tournament that he's leaving out there compared to what we would expect. Kokrak, Siwoo Kim, Ernie Els, and Danny Lee round out the top 5 there. So a lot of room for improvement back to their average for those golfers. All right. That's it. That's the Wyndham Championship. Again, let me know the top guy over the golfer over 10K who is most likely to miss the cut. Leave it in the comment section below. Make sure you like the video and you're subscribed. We'll enter you into a drawing, and then leave a review on iTunes, 5 stars. Say something nice about the show. We'll get you into the drawing as well. Let me know what you think. Tweet me. It's at RickRunGood. Don't forget the new handle, or leave a comment below. I'll talk to you guys. Good luck.